Do you support a common law for marriage, divorce, adoption and inheritance? An overwhelming 67.2% have said yes.
2 out of 3 women who were surveyed are in favor of a common law when it comes to personal matters like inheritance, property rights, succession, marriage, etc. The younger you are, the more educated you are, the support goes up.
जो राजनेता बिना जाने इसको अपोज कर रहे हैं, शायद इस सर्वे के बाद उनकी आंख खुलेगी।
यूनिफॉर्म सिविल कोड जो समान नागरिक कानून अगर आता है तो सभी वर्ग के लोगों को न्याय मिलेगा, सभी वर्ग का उत्थान होगा, प्रगति होगी।
The policy decision DMK is opposed to.
Do you support a common law for marriage, adoption, inheritance, divorce? If common marriage age has to be 21, it will be 21 for everyone. If inheritance equal share is the one that is mandated, it will be the one for everybody.
Good evening and a warm welcome. I'm Grihatul Siddiqui and this is Viewpoint. Today, as we take on yet another aspect of the Uniform Civil Code and put it up for discussion, the important thing to keep in mind is uniformity and equality are two different things. And much as gender justice is one essential aspect of bringing in a Uniform Civil Code in the country, it didn't form a part of any of the debates on it in the Constituent Assembly back then when the idea was floated. Secondly, can there ever be uniformity of personal laws in a diverse country like India? And when it comes to personal laws, the fingers are quick to get pointed at the Muslim personal law. And when we speak about that, the framers of the Constitution were also of the view that no government can use its provisions in a way that would force the Muslims to revolt. People back then, in favor of a Uniform Civil Code, also conceded that it would be unwise to enact the Uniform Civil Code, ignoring strong opposition from any one particular community. Now, if we delve further into the equality question, with the right to equality comes the relation of the UCC that it has with fundamental rights. But over the issue of putting the Uniform Civil Code in the Fundamental Rights chapter, the matter was settled by a vote back then. By a 5-4 majority, it was decided that the provision was outside the scope of fundamental rights and therefore the Uniform Civil Code was made less important than freedom of religion. Having said that, law and theology are two different things. Law prescribes human behavior from which it judges the deviance. Moreover, the Constitution, which gives this freedom of religion, also lays down its limitations, which means that one can follow religion to the extent that it doesn't affect public order, health, morality, and other fundamental rights. So decluttering is really needed to be done there when the debate gets down to religion versus a Uniform Civil Code. Also, back to looking at UCC from a prism of gender justice, can we really do that as step one? But let this be a very informed step one, because the issue is that many appear to believe that a Uniform Civil Code would remove all inequalities in one stroke and create a gender-just society. But it is important to understand that formal equality cannot bring about a radical change. What the society really needs is a substantive equality. And we attempt to decode this very aspect by way of the News18 Mega UCC survey. What are the kind of questions that we have put forth to all these bunch of over 8,000 Muslim women that have in fact taken part of the survey? If we take a look at the question number 1, it in fact says, do you support a common law for marriage, divorce, adoption and inheritance? Let's look at the responses. Yes says 67.2%. That's how high the number of Muslim women have come in response to this big question. They want a common law that should support marriage, divorce, inheritance or adoption. If we look at the number, it is as low, no is as low as 25.4%. People who are sitting on the fence are 7.4%. That's how the kind of questions that are being put forth. If you look at question number 2 that we have in fact presented to this group, do you support 21 years as the legal age of marriage for all men and women? And look at the number that supports it. 78% says yes, 16% are still at a no, and 4.7% are still sitting on the fence. They do not know or they can't say. That's what they have in fact mentioned. Now, if we look at what are the kind of questions that we have put forth to all these bunch of over 8,000 Muslim women that have in fact taken part of the survey, if we take a look at the question number 1, it in fact says, do you support a common law for marriage, divorce, adoption and inheritance? Let's look at the responses. Yes says 67.2%. That's how high the number of Muslim women have come in response to this big question. They want a common law that should support marriage, divorce, inheritance or adoption. If we look at the number, it is as low, no is as low as 25.4%. People who are sitting on the fence are 7.4%. That's how the kind of questions that are being put forth. If you look at question number 2 that we have in fact presented to this group, do you support 21 years as the legal age of marriage for all men and women? And look at the number that supports it. 78% says yes, 16% are still at a no, and 4.7% are still sitting on the fence. They do not know or they can't say. That's what they have in fact mentioned. Let me now put this up for debate. We have a panel of guests who are joining me this evening on the broadcast. Zakia Suman, who's the author and activist, is joining us on the broadcast. Zeenat Shaukat Ali, an Islamic scholar, is also with us. Also with us is Yasmin Farooqi of the SDPI. And last but not the least, the lone male member on the panel, Mr. Shahid Ali, who's the president of the United Muslims Front, also joins us this evening. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you so much for being a part of this discussion. Zakia, I begin with you. Let's now speak about the Uniform Civil Code from the prism of gender justice. Do you really think we can go about doing that?
Thanks for having me, Griha. Uniform Civil Code has fundamentally been about gender justice and gender equality. And it was championed by Jawaharlal Nehru, Pandit Ambedkar, Rajkumari Amrit Kaur, and stalwarts like that from the freedom movement. But it was opposed at that time because it was seen as an attack on our culture. And that's why it found, expression in the Article 44 of the Directive Principles. But it is a politicized issue. The question remains that reform has happened in the Hindu family laws, the codified Hindu family laws, which have resulted in substantive rights coming to Hindu women. Muslim women have been denied legal protection in all matters pertaining to marriage, divorce, and family. So it's not about, I found your introductory remarks really, really interesting and really very good, because it's not about, religious freedom versus gender justice. No, it's about gender justice, and it's also about constitutional justice, constitutional rights coming to women, and also the Allah-given rights coming to women. Because in the absence of a codified Muslim family law, the Quranic affirmative injunctions such as meher, such as consent, such as guardianship and custody of children, such as share in property, have not translated into reality for the Muslim women. The Muslim women have been discriminated in all these matters. And I'm really, happy about your survey. I really congratulate News18 for the survey that you carried out. You've done a very, very significant contribution to this discourse by directly talking to more than 8,000 women. And look at the results of the survey. I'm not at all surprised. In fact, most Muslim women that we work with, that we talk to, want reform. They want justice and equality. It is their faith that their religion gives them justice. And it's also their faith that as Constitution of India, they're entitled to justice. Our demands for reform in Muslim personal law, codification of Muslim personal law, have fallen on deaf ears. The clergy has never paid heed to what we ever demanded. The politicians have overlooked our demands. The leaders, all kinds of community leaders felt it was not necessary to listen to what women were saying. So I'm really glad that you have taken the pains to conduct this survey. And these women are saying clearly and openly that we want justice and equality in marriage, divorce, family, succession, adoption. So I think it's a great step forward. And it will feed into this whole discourse, which is going on in the country following the law commission seeking suggestions of the Indian public. So I really congratulate you, Griha, yourself and the News 18 team for this.
Thank you so much for that, Zakia. And in fact, as a follow-up to this very point that you've raised, let me actually bring in Zeenat Shaukat Ali before I bring in Shahid Ali to actually get a counter opinion to what Zakia has just mentioned. Zeenat, the fact that Zakia mentions the Hindu Code Bill, but back when it was about to be implemented, that also needed a trifurcation of the bill into 3 acts. That also was not an easy exercise. It took about 14 to 16 years to get that implemented. So when it is about reforms, do you think the Muslim community has been targeted time and again? At least that is what is the uncommon view that has been made by several members of the opposition. And sorry to politicize this, but I wanted to understand this aspect. Have the Muslim community brought it upon themselves that there is no reform, no codification of their personal law yet, and that's why time and again they are in fact being segregated, and laws like this are in fact putting them at a minority, that they are the ones who are not complying with what should be a common sort of a view when it is about bringing in a uniform code in the country. Do you think the community in itself is to blame because of it?
Yes, I think, you see, in the last 75 years, when there has been ample room and ample time, and, issues have come up now and again, and the latest one was the triple talaq issue, which is non-existent in the Quran. So that was a time when the Muslims could have effected the change, because the Quran does not speak of it.
Yes.
The present law that is being practiced is very well known as Anglo-Mohammedan law. It is based on customary law and other kinds of laws are crept in. Now, this was something that needed correction right at the beginning. But there have been no amendments. In 1937, the Act came. In 1969, the Muslim Dissolution Marriages Act, and then in 1986, which was really quite an ineffective, which was not an act that really gave women substantial amount of what we should have got. But the point here remains that this kind of argument, you see, which has been controlled by patriarchy and which has been controlled by traditionalists and which has also been controlled by misogynic elements, and I think male power that has wanted to assert itself from time to time, very unfortunate but true, it has led to this kind of understanding. I have written 2 books on the subject based in 1984 and 1998. So the point is that studying laws across the country, studying laws across the continents, Muslim law has undergone also various kind of changes in different countries. Today you have Turkey, which is a predominantly Muslim country. And let me tell you that it is ruled by the Swiss Code in 1923. And that Swiss Code is applicable and it has nothing. And no one says that, that it is in consonance with the Islamic law. Because even when it came to the question of polygamy, and Kemal Atatürk, who was really an extraordinary leader, approached the clergy and he did not get a response.
Yes.
And then he introduced this code, and in which it was mentioned, where polygamy is concerned, that the conditions for polygamy today are unrealizable. It was put in inverted commas. So the whole point is that even in a country like Turkey, you have, which is a predominantly powerful Muslim country today, a Swiss code that is prevailing. But on the other hand, you have countries like Tunisia, who went back to the Quran and said that is exactly what the Quran is saying, that women have, men and women have an equal right to divorce, conditions in marriage. Marriage does not undermine women's condition, equality and equality all the way. And so they base their laws on, on the textual understandings of the Quran, and these are also extraordinarily brilliant and modern laws. So
while you talk about the textual understanding of the Quran, Zeenat, let me now bring in Mr. Shahid Ali. Mr. Shahid Ali, when it is about the reforms, the Muslim personal law has always been targeted. Even when there was the right time to go ahead and implement certain changes, it hasn't been done in favor of the women, which are half of the Muslim population in the country and worldwide. Why do you think that important aspect is lacking from the Muslim personal law?
In fact, the important aspect is something else. You have to see that yes, I am letting you know, I am telling. Diversity is a basic feature of Constitution of India. India is a country which is governed by Constitution of India. Now, basic features cannot be amended by anyone. Even with the support of absolute majority, basic features of Constitution cannot be amended by anyone. Now, Article 25 confers powers upon all peoples of India, whosoever is living in India, by way of fundamental right that everyone will have the right to profess their own religion in the manner they like, in the manner which has been taught by their own religion. Now, with this diversity, India has survived for 70 years, 75 years, and India is growing day by day.
The limitation to that, it should not come in the way of fundamental rights also. That's an important aspect, Mr. Shahid Ali.
Yes,
don't you think right to equality is a fundamental aspect that should not, in fact, be apprehended because of certain things that are there in religion and in religious personal laws?
So you want to say that for 75 years our courts, our constitution allowed inequality?
No, I'm
not.
specifically talking
Equality
about
is
the
there.
Muslim personal law. Mr. Shahid Ali, I'd want your response on that. I'm talking about the reforms that are needed. You are not talking about the question that I've asked you. I'm just asking. Yeah, I wanted to understand this aspect. Yes.
Your channel has conducted some survey.
Yes.
Now I say with responsibility, and I'm giving one question for you people to conduct survey, that how many instances of inequality are among Muslims in comparison to their brothers, those who profess Hindu religion or other religions? If
you can answer that question to me, because we have got two members in the panel.
Then you will be surprised. You will be surprised that instances among Muslims are equal to 0%.
Okay, can you base this on facts? Can you support this statement of yours on facts, Mr. Shahid Ali?
Equality has been provided by Quran, by Sunnah. There is no inequality, and therefore there is no instance of inequality. So this all is propaganda. This all is nothing else but the propaganda, and the politics is being done by this propaganda.
Okay.
Now
let me ask you this. Mr. Ali.
Please give me 10 seconds.
Okay.
Please give me 10 seconds.
I just want to bring in and make one point. Mr. Shahid Ali, this will not go anywhere.
Files an affidavit before the Supreme Court.
I'm exactly coming to that. Let me ask you this. Since you mentioned that this is a highly politicized issue, I wanted to understand, this is a very question I asked also to Ms. Zeenat Shaukat Ali. Isn't the community itself responsible for what it has brought upon itself? Considering, let's talk about triple talaq. A thing like instant triple talaq is not even legitimized under the holy book Quran. Why was it allowed to be practiced in the country so that the ruling dispensation goes ahead and gets in to criminalize that entire practice that is not even, has any kind of legitimacy as far as the holy Quran is concerned? Why was it allowed? Why did the Muslim personal law did not step in as far as that is concerned? Then how can you claim politicization? Because you guys were not responsible for the reform.
If you want to talk about triple talaq is not allowed by Quranic verses.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Triple talaq is not mandated in Quran.
Why was it allowed to
mandated in Quran? That if divorce has been pronounced, please now appreciate one thing.
Yes, please
allow me to answer that.
Please.
You have raised the question of triple talaq. Triple talaq is not provided in Quran. Quran ayat number 228, Surah Baqarah chapter number 2 says, if talaq is pronounced for one time or 100 times or lakhs of times, that will be considered as one talaq. And if the compromise is not accorded in between the husband and wife within 3 months, then that will dissolve the marriage. Now this triple talaq qanoon, which has come into being, therefore we have challenged that as well. Now at least that talaq is one talaq. Triple talaq is punishable, but that will be considered one talaq. And if the compromise is not accorded between the parties, then after 3 months that will dissolve the marriage. So that is against the Quran. So that's why I say with responsibility, please talk about Quran. Please have a debate on Quran. Every verse on Quran. We are ready to talk. We are ready to debate on every verse of Quran. So कुतर की बात हम नहीं करते हैं कि साहब फला पर्सन आदमी ये करा, दूसरा आदमी ये करा, तीसरा आदमी ये करा. Come with authentic proofs. Come with evidences. Come with instances. And I challenge through your medium as well.
Yes.
Please talk, please debate on Quranic verses, please debate on Sharia, please debate on Ahadith, and you will find that these are the best law, which should be adopted by all.
That's exactly what we are putting out for debate also. Mr. Shahid Ali, the entire Muslim personal law is not based on the constitution of the country, it's based on Sharia. That also has certain aspects the point that Zina Shaukat Ali and before her Ms. Zakia Suman was making was that it has allowed certain patriarchal elements to actually go ahead and dominate what actually goes as part of the Muslim personal law. Let's talk about inheritance for that matter. If at all a daughter, an only daughter, is part of a family, as far vis-a-vis her relationship with her father, she gets just half of the property. In the case of the fact that she has brothers, she only gets 1/4 of that property. How is that justified when we talk about gender justice?
One half in comparison to his brother, to her brother.
Which makes it 1/4.
She will be married to someone.
Yes.
Now, no, 1/2. She will be married to someone. Now that boy will definitely get something from his parents. So she will take along 1/2. And the boy will also have half of the property or one share from there. So this property will become more than the boy. Please try to appreciate this.
Okay.
जिसको शादी करके जो जा रही है लड़की, वो अपने साथ में एक 20 in comparison to boy आधा हिस्सा लेके जा रही है. जिसके पास शादी इसकी होने जा रही है, वहां से उस लड़के को पूरे का पूरा हिस्सा आ रहा है. तो उसका दोनों का मिलाकर कितना होगा? 75. अगर लड़की को आपने आधा दे दिया, उधर से वो लड़का भी आधा लेके आ गया, तो लड़के वालों के पास तो बहुत कम रह गया. तो इक्वलिटी कहां से आई? इक्वलिटी हैज टू बी इक्वलिटी. इक्वलिटी दिस नॉट बी कि साहब लड़कियों को ज्यादा है, लड़कों को कम, या लड़कों को ज्यादा, लड़कों को कम. आप दोनों चीजों को मिला के देखिए ना.
Okay.
Please,
let me bring in Miss Yasmin Farooqi now. She's been very patiently waiting for her turn.
More.
Right. I got your point. That's an interesting aspect that you've made, and that's why I wanted that dissection of this targeting of a certain community angle part of it, and that's why we've got you, Mr. Shahid Ali, on the debate. But let me actually get in Miss Yasmin Farooqi. Miss Farooqi, the fact that there are certain aspects of the Sharia, the Muslim personal law, that have been interpreted in the way that it should be vis-a-vis the holy books, the Quran, and there are certain aspects that are claimed to be skewed or they have been misinterpreted. Like this dissection of the inheritance law that has just been done by Mr. Shahid Ali. It's a fair point that he has in fact made, because it's a marriageable age daughter, she gets some share from her husband and it makes it equal. It can be justified because even if we look at the Hindu code bill and in the inheritance law under the Hindu religion, that also, when it comes to inheritance, it took a lot of time to get in that amendment to get in an equal share to the daughters in the family. So that number of years were dedicated for that reform to actually set in. How do you see this justification that has been made by the former speakers on the panel that the Muslim personal law is not gender just, and because of which we had to do this survey?
शाहिद साहब ने जो कहा है, देखिए वो बिल्कुल सही कहा है कि उन कुरान में इस तरह का हिस्सा दिया गया है. मैं अपने दूसरे पॉइंट पे आ रही हूँ. अब देखिए, हमारे यहाँ अभी आप सबने ये कहा कि हमारे यहाँ ये चाहते हैं कि बराबरी का दावा हो, बराबर का समझा जाए, महिलाओं के साथ हमदर्दी हो. मैं बिल्कुल इस बात को मानती हूँ, लेकिन सारी महिलाओं के साथ होना चाहिए. उन महिलाओं में जो हमारी आदिवासी हैं उनके साथ भी होना चाहिए, जिनके मर्द 5 शादियां करते हैं. उन महिलाओं के साथ भी होना चाहिए जिन एक महिला के 5 आदमी होते हैं. उन महिलाओं के साथ तो बात, प्रॉब्लम वो नहीं है. प्रॉब्लम यह है कि आप जब बात करते हो तो सिर्फ मुस्लिम पर्सनल लॉ की बात करते हो, आप सारी चीजों की बात नहीं करते हो. आप आदिवासियों की बात नहीं करते हो, आप सिखों की बात नहीं करते हो. अब आपके एक और सवाल के जवाब पे मैं आती हूँ कि आधा हिस्सा बिल्कुल हिंदू लॉ में जो वो उसको ठीक किया गया है, उसमें लड़की को आधा हिस्सा दिया गया है. लेकिन आज तक 5% को भी अगर आप ये साबित कर दें, आप ऐसे जैसे अभी एनालिसिस किया है, अगर ये 5% भी मुझे साबित कर दें तो मैं मान जाऊंगी. क्योंकि एक चीज और होती है वसीयत, और वो वसीयत मुस्लिम में भी है. आप है ना, हिबा कर दीजिए अपनी बेटी को, किसने मना किया है? वो जो 1/4 लिखा हुआ है ना, शाहिद साहब से ही बात कर रही हूँ, वो ही नहीं देते हैं कोई. ना हिंदू लॉ में आधा दिया जा रहा है, ना मुस्लिम लॉ में 4 पर जो हिस्सा कुरान ने कहा है वो लड़की को दिया जा रहा है. तो बराबरी तो ना पहले हुई, ना अभी हुई, ना हिंदुओं में हो रही, ना मुसलमानों में हो रही. अब अगर आप ये लॉ लाते हैं बराबरी का, तो जिनको पहले से इतने पुराने टाइम से लॉ बना हुआ है, उनको ही बेचारियों को अभी तक नहीं मिली, तो ये क्या दे देंगे? अब आप आइए, जो 5-6 पॉइंट्स पे आप बात करते हो, मैं सारे पॉइंट्स पे बात करना चाहूंगी. कि अव्वल तो हम एक कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन की जब बात करते हैं तो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में क्लियर है कि राज्य जो है वो आपको प्रपोजल देगी सेंटर को, और फिर उस पे सेंटर गौर करेगा। वो कहीं बात ही नहीं आती है। एक तरीका होता है, एक चीजें ठीक करने के लिए आपको जड़ों से आप 371 लागू है गोवा में, अगर आप शादी 25 साल तक नहीं होती और बेटा नहीं हो तो आप वो बातें भी करो। आप सिर्फ मुस्लिम्स की बातें मत करो, आप ये सब बैठ के बात करो कि साहब हम उसका पे कानून पे भी लाएंगे। जब आप बात करते हो रिफाइंड की, तो आप बात करते हो कि आदिवासियों को आप अलग हटा लेंगे।
आपकी बात मैं समझ रही हूँ मिस फारूकी, एंड दैट्स एन इम्पोर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट, एंड हम लोग यही चाह रहे हैं कि इस डिबेट के जरिए हम इन सारी बातों को सामने रखें। बट बिफोर आई गो फर्दर टू माई स्पीकर्स ऑन द ब्रॉडकास्ट, लेट मी एक्चुअली कट अक्रॉस टू दिस important reaction that we are now getting. Union Minister V. Muralidharan has responded to the CNN News 18 UCC survey. Let's first cut across to that reaction and then we'll go back to the panel.
We have along with us Minister of State for External Affairs V. Muralidharan. Sir, while Network 18 conducted a survey on Uniform Civil Code among Muslim women, about 65% of them said that they want some kind of a common code when it comes to civil laws.
No, I think this should make the eyes of the political parties who are opposing the rights of women, let their eyes be opened, let them look at the situation and let them get this feedback from the women folk of all the communities. So you are saying that the Muslim women especially, they want that they should be treated equal with men regarding marriage rights or regarding property rights. So that should be an eye opener for those who are opposing this. So I would request them that whatever campaign they are undertaking, let them undertake this campaign with the involvement of the women also.
Some of the other points said that 82% wanted equal rights and property. When they divorce, they want to remarry without any issues. Marriage age should be to 21. These were some of the factors.
No, that is why all these issues are points of debate and discussion. Let that debate and discussion happen, and the country will come to a decision which is conclusive and which is good for everyone in the society.
All right, going back to my panel on this, Sakia Suman, the earlier point that Ms. Yasmin Farooqi was making was about how this particular aspect of the questionnaire that we have put to over 8,000 Muslim women should have an expanded reach. It should go to even members of the tribal community, members of the Sikh community or Christian community. What do you have to say about those stakeholders that are equally important when it is coming down to implementation of the Uniform Civil Code, considering the right to equality is in principle and practicality really missing in all of these spheres also?
Definitely, because Uniform Civil Code is meant for the entire country, irrespective of faith, irrespective of ethnicity, and for all genders. So I'm sure that we need to hear the voices of all women across all backgrounds. That is very, very important. Not just that, we also need to hear the voices, from within the gender diversity community, because, we cannot look at, in 21st century, we cannot look at gender in the male-female binary. There are other genders also. The entire debate which is going on same-sex marriage, the petition is lying in front of the Supreme Court. Even that needs to be looked at. Several other aspects pertaining to marriage and family, such as the age of consent. The age of consent needs to be revisited by the Law Commission and by the Law Ministry, because in POCSO, the age of consent has been raised to 18 years, and very often teenage boys and girls who are in love and who are sexually active end up, the boys end up getting criminalized for the sexual activity. So that needs to be revisited. We also need to look at the question of entry of women into places of religious worship. It can be a temple, it can be a church, it can be a dargah, it can be a gurdwara. There should be equal rights for entry for all believers, irrespective of gender background. Of course, despite laws, we remain a patriarchal society. Yes. The mindsets, the attitudes of people need to change. They need to recognize that there cannot be a discrimination with girls and with women on account of gender. So that is one whole area where a lot of work needs to be done. But substantive equality can come to women across all faith backgrounds if we take away injustice and discrimination which is carried out in the name of customs, laws, personal laws, and in the name of diversity. Diversity is a very, very noble principle. But in the name of diversity, I cannot rob the rights of another person. There are Supreme Court judgments which say that you are free to practice your religion so long as it doesn't violate the rights of the female citizens. So all this needs to be kept in mind. And this is a question of constitutional morality. It's a question of also, pertaining to Muslims. It's also a question of Islamic morality, because Islam is supposed to be a religion of gender justice and gender equality. But in principle, the Allah-given rights to the women have not been translated into reality because of the dominance of conservative patriarchal clergymen and bodies such as the Personal Law Board who fear women's equality, who fear women's independence.
Mr. Shahid Ali, would you like to respond to that? This entire point that Ms. Zakir Suman is making, and also on that aspect, if we look at the marriageable age for Muslim girls, the fact that it's allowed right after puberty is also a big question that has been often put forth when it is about no equality as far as the Muslim women are concerned as far as the personal law is concerned.
I think suffice would be to say that the Punjab and Haryana High Court and Delhi High Court has held so that the age of the marriage for the Muslim girl cannot be made mandatory as of 18 years. Now, something has been decided by Honorable Court. A judicial dictum has come. Now, that has to be respected. If the Honorable Court's orders are not respected, then who else will be respected in this country? Undoubtedly, that matter is now subject to the Honorable Supreme Court. Honorable Supreme Court till date has not decided so.
Yes.
So,
and that is the important aspect. Then why are you mentioning a minority judgment that's coming out of one of the high courts? Unless and until the apex court makes it mandatory, we have to stick to the fact that the Indian law determines the marriageable age as 18 for women. Then why can't that reform be brought into the Muslim personal law as well?
Honorable Supreme Court has not stayed the orders passed by Honorable Delhi High Court and Honorable Punjab Haryana High Court. Honorable Supreme Court has not stayed. So that is a good law as on date.
No, I'm again asking about the reform bit. You are still going about justifying this. Don't you think over the years, ever since the Holy Book was written, don't you think that reform is much needed as far as the society is concerned?
Whether, Madam, please try to appreciate one thing. Who is supreme in this country? Now, who will decide the laws? Who will interpret the laws? Who will make decisions? Undoubtedly, Honorable Courts. Honorable Court decision is there. Honorable Supreme Court has not stayed even that. Now, that is a good law as on date. Now, something is good law. The Honorable High Court and not only one High Court, two High Courts have held that the marriageable age is different than the age of majority as far as the Muslim girls are concerned. The thing which you have said, the puberty. Now that goes to there. Now recently the Kerala High Court has observed, आपने भी सुना होगा साहब आप के जो दादा के जमाने में कितने साल की उम्र में शादियां हो जाया करती थी. I am not on to that कि साहब that should be fixed. Now something should be left for Honorable Court to decide. Honorable Court has already decided that. So are we supreme than the Honorable Courts? Are the anchors supreme than the Honorable Courts? Is the media supreme than the Honorable Courts? Absolutely not. This power is conferred with Honorable Supreme Court, Honorable High Court only to interpret law. Law has been interpreted.
Mr. Ali, unfortunately, on the question of reform, you're just hiding behind this one logic which you are going on repeating. You have not yet actually conceded to this one idea that a reform is needed when it is about the Muslim personal law or any kind of personal law, and that's why the Hindu Code Bill was brought in. Don't you think that aspect really needs to be debated further and looked at as far as the Muslim community is concerned? Because this is the point that Zakir Suman and Zina Shaukat Ali were also making, that it's been dominated by people who have these majoritarian views that women should in fact be put under their shoes, and they should actually not be considered equal as far as the men in the religion are concerned, and that becomes a huge problem. Zakir, you wanted to respond to the point that Mr. Shahid Ali was making.
Yeah, so Sir has just illustrated, the problem that we have been talking about. And these high courts gave this judgment in the absence of a law.
Yes.
That's why the need for a codified law. Let us not forget that the Supreme Court has just now, in the month of March, highlighted the need for a common law. We are going, we are going in this discussion because of the Law Commission soliciting views. But just before that, the Supreme Court has said that these anomalies in personal laws are coming in the way of dispensing justice to women and girls.
Zina Chokka,
And
very
that's why
quick
they
point. Do you
highlighted
agree
need
to
for
the
a
point
law.
that Shahid Ali also made when it is about the judgment that came out of the Delhi High Court and the Punjab High Court as far as not deciding on a minimum marriageable age for girls, for women?
Yes,
No,
yes.
I can
Zina,
agree with
Zina.
In the absence of a law, that's
Zakir,
going
one
to
second.
happen.
Questions for Zeenat, please.
Sorry.
Yeah, you see, I cannot agree with him. Even on religious grounds, I cannot agree with him because if you look at worldwide in the countries of the world that have practiced Sharia laws and that have introduced change in the age of marriage of girls, have used a particular verse of the Quran, in which it is said that when it is in Surah number 4, Surah number Nisa, that when your girls come to the in the age of sense, when they have got the age of sense, then you hand over their property to them. Intelligence, you see, when they have learned to understand, so you hand over your property to them, and not before that. So what happens is that it was debated that when when a property is not given away to a girl at that age, how can you ask her to take her whole life and say that she can be married at 13, 14, 12 or whatever age that she starts menstruating? I think that entire argument has gone in the wrong direction. What the Quran was saying and what the even the traditional understandings have come into play, they have said is that when the girl gets a mentally understood, what you're talking about is only a physical development of a girl to be able to produce. That doesn't mean that she is ready in her mind and that her body has become strong enough to bear children and that she understands the responsibilities of becoming a mother and becoming a wife. And so I think it is extremely important that the girl child educates herself.
Absolutely.
She's given the time and she's given the opportunity, which is a compulsion in Islam. There are 805 verses in the Quran which deal with ilm or knowledge and its acquisition and its derivatives. Now here it is the most often used word in the Quran as next to the word Allah.
Zeenat, thank you so much for that views, and that's an important point that Zeenat Chokka Ali is making. Unfortunately, that's all the time that I have on the broadcast. The important aspect of the Quran is ilm, knowledge. The seeking of knowledge is important before actually going ahead and getting married. It all boils down to in fact, misrepresentation of the text, and that's why we continue to debate the anomalies in the Muslim personal law and other personal laws. It is all because of the patriarchal mindset and the misrepresentation of the holy books. I'd like to thank all my panelists for joining me this evening on this